Guys, who saw that coming? Who saw that Nintendo Direct coming? Holy fuck. Okay, let's get that directly out the way. What the fuck? Okay, yes. The mine's connected, it's got a charge. 3DS is still getting love. That's a good thing. I love this thing. I love it. It's still getting love. Metroid is due out tomorrow. I just paid mine off. I'm getting the limited edition, the collector's edition, whatever you want to call it. It's more than likely going to come in a box. Looks like this. Have CD, have keychain, all that good whoopie woo for pre-ordering and whatnot. But this is getting some love, man. Atlas is coming out with some RPGs. I can't wait for Radiant Historia. That game looks amazing. I knew about that game already. But there is going to be some love still coming for this. Don't expect that to stop. But the biggest stuff was for this. This machine right here, the Switch. Holy Christ, could you believe some of the shit that they just announced? I mean, wow. Okay, first of all, Skyrim's release date was announced, the 17th of November. That's the first thing. We found out Xenoblade's release date. Xenoblade Chronicles 2, that is. Releases on the 1st of December. Big news. We found out the special edition. Big news. A Pro Controller. Okay. Let me go ahead and tell you something. Pro Controllers, I'm a little disappointed in. I did buy the Splatoon 2. I did a review on that. And I stand by my thing on everything I said about that. I stand by it. This, I'm sorry, I still feel some type of way about it. It's not worth the extra $10 for 2 colors on the grips. Not worth it. I'm sorry, I stand by that. I'm glad I have a Pro Controller. It definitely makes playing games on the TV a hell of a lot more easier than with the Joy-Con grips. I still enjoyed the Joy-Con grip. While I had it, I still use it. Not so much, but when I have people over, I use that. They can use this. It doesn't bother me. I noticed they are coming out with one for Xenoblade Chronicles 2. I love Xenoblade Chronicles. I played Xenoblade on the Wii, on the 3DS, on the Wii U with Xenoblade Chronicles X. I have the limited edition on the Wii U. I bought that before I even had a Wii U. So more than likely, I'm not only going to be getting the limited edition for the Xenoblade Chronicles 2, I will end up going and buy a fucking Pro Controller that he announced on the Direct. Now, I will probably have a review separate for that controller because what they showed of it with the picture is there's some kind of design on it. And it's not just colored in grips, which means this will be retired and that will be my main. Now, what they announced during, man, Bethesda, you guys are stepping up to the plate and actually showing Nintendo support. Good job. Good job. I called you out on it before the Switch was even announced, before it even came out. Because you were just going to be like, hey man, we helped Nintendo show the damn thing off, and that's as far as our support was going to go. We were never going to release Skyrim as part of their game catalog. We just wanted them to say, hey, it can do this, and hope it even helps. No, you guys are actually releasing Skyrim on the 17th of November. Big ups. But you had news at Direct. You guys are releasing, you see that Doom poster there? That's right, Doom is coming to the Switch. Wow. Doom is a beast of a game, first of all. I played it on the PS4. I bought the special edition for that. I think I have an unboxing video on this channel for that. I got the statue for it. No, I'm not going to go ape shit if they have a limited run on the Switch. I already did that already for the PS4. I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to buy the base game, if I even buy the game again. But the fact of the matter is that game is coming to this. That is fucking impressive. We're getting LA Noire. These big AAA titles are finding their home now on the Switch. And I know it's really a stretch to say home, but let's look at it as, hey, they're coming over to the Switch. Bethesda, a company that hasn't really shown any love to Nintendo, is showing love to Nintendo. Rockstar is starting to fuck with Nintendo again. Something they haven't done since Chinatown Wars, which a lot of people don't even remember. That game started on the DS. It started right here on this one, on this DS. This is not a 3DS. This is a regular DSi. It started right here on this DS, and a lot of people like to tend to forget that because it did get ported over to the PS2. A lot of people like to forget that. But we haven't seen Rockstar show any love to Nintendo since then. And they're bringing LA Noire to the Switch. The Switch, a lot of people were hoping this thing was going to flop. They were hoping this was going to fail because this, in my opinion, and you can have a totally different one, is definitely a powerhouse, not technically, but a powerhouse in the gaming industry. It is a powerhouse in the way we are moving towards playing games. It's a powerhouse in how we're going to advance moving forward with gaming, and I think developers are starting to take notice. And that's why we're seeing games like Skyrim, we're seeing games like Doom, we're seeing LA Noire, we're seeing all these big titles, and not Resident Evil Revelations 1 because that's already on 3DS, and that's where it started, but Revelations 2, and so forth. All these big AAA titles making that jump over. And yes, their graphics will be dumbed down a little bit, but this is the first iteration of a portable console with that kind of capability. Trust me, we will start seeing more of these pop up, especially because of how successful it is. And with this Direct and all these big name titles, these were not just indie titles, which unfortunately with the PS4 and the Xbox One, they've heavily relied on this generation as indie titles. The AAA quality of games, aside from like Destiny and a handful of others, has been relatively small. And it's been reliant on pretty much a lot of ports. Regardless of how you may feel about that statement, it really has. They've really relied heavily on indies and relied heavily on porting games from last gen. And Nintendo isn't doing that as much. They're not really like, yes, you had the port of Mario Kart 8. You had the port of, well, it's not even a port. It's not. I mean, you had Zelda Breath of the Wild, which they just decided we're going to wait until the Switch and release it on the Switch and the Wii U, which is something they did with Twilight Princess. So it's not really a port. It's the same thing. They did that with Twilight Princess. And of course the Switch has indie titles. I'm not going to say it doesn't, but they're not as reliant on those indie titles as, say, your PS4s or your Xbox Ones. Which, I mean, that is very, very, very clear when, I mean, you look at the library. They are very heavily driven on the indie scene. And no, I'm not taking anything away from games like Horizon Zero Dawn, which I have a copy right here. I'm not taking anything away from that. I'm not taking anything away from games like Until Dawn or Knack. I'm not taking anything away from those games. But I'm saying those games, when you put all those out there, are seriously like throwing a rock in the lake in comparison to the amount of indies on those systems. Now, when you look at the Nintendo side of things, you're throwing indie titles, you're like throwing a rock into a lake filled with your Marios and Zeldas and Metroids and Pokemons, and that's the difference. It's completely reversed. And, you know, like I said, this is my opinion on it, but again, there is a big shift between the two. And again, what I said about this being, this is a whole new iteration of how we're playing games, of how we're going to be playing games. Yes, it is that, regardless of how you may feel, regardless of, oh, I don't want it to be that. You may not want it to be that, but look at how it's caught on. Look at how so many people have gravitated to it. Regardless of if they bought a PS4, regardless of if they bought an Xbox One, how many people have gravitated towards it? A lot. Enough to where people who never fucked with Nintendo before are starting to. Bethesda, I don't recall one Bethesda game ever being on a Nintendo product, ever. I can't. And I've owned every Nintendo system. I have a lot of Nintendo games in my room right now. I'm in here. I have them all in front of me. I don't see one Bethesda game in front. And it's not because I'm a picky gamer like that. I'm not sitting here going, no, I don't buy Bethesda games on Nintendo. I'm not saying that. I'm saying I'm looking at these games and I don't see Bethesda on any of these. And they're now putting games on Nintendo. Rockstar is putting games on Nintendo again. This is very, very much a very noticeable thing. This is showing you exactly how important this thing is, regardless of if your personal opinion on it is that it's not. Okay? And that's why when I talk about 4K and HDR gaming, those companies are grasping at straws because they realize this right here is actually something that is moving the industry in a whole nother way. And it's actually something that Sony's tried and failed. They tried, they failed, and their failure on it is not because their product was bad. It's not that. The Vita is a very good product. I will say that a million times over. And this is coming from a guy who bashes Sony consistently. It's like I have a bat in my hand and I'm just beating Sony with it. I've done that several times in several videos. You can go check out all of them if you want to. This isn't that bad of a product. I like it. I play a lot of indie titles on here. There are a lot of indie titles on here. But it's not that there's nothing to play on here. It's not that. It's not that, oh, well, all I do is download the free games. It's not it. The problems are the memory card cost. Why is it so high? Why did you make it to where I had to go to AT&T for 3G? Why did you make it to where it wasn't a wide selection? Why did you make it to where you're gouging my pockets if I wanted one? Why are you making me go broke over wanting the damn thing? That's what killed you. It's not, this is a horrible product. That's not it at all. It's, you're gouging the customer to death. Nintendo isn't trying to make you go broke. They're not trying to make you go bankrupt just because you want to play a game. Sony, you tried it and it could have been successful. And you could have been the cornerstone that changed the entire industry. But you got greedy, you got up your own ass, and you said, I want to gouge your pockets, I want to make you go broke, I want you to go bankrupt. All because I'm not happy with actually being an innovator and changing the way it is. That's exactly what happened there. That's exactly what happened. And you can't say there's no good games on this. Uncharted Golden Abyss, great game. This thing was supposed to be so big that even Call of Duty went to this, and it still couldn't save it. There's Batman Arkham Origins on this. There's fucking Tales of Hearts R on this. There's God of War 1 and 2 remastered. There's fucking Metal Gear Solid 2 and 3. There's so many good games on here that they've remastered and re-released, and there's so many good games that they just made for this thing. And there's the, ability to do the whole remote play, yet Sony gouged the shit out of their customers. They ripped them off, and they fucking wanted you to go bankrupt, that people told Sony, fuck you, I'm not doing it. Whereas Nintendo said, it's $300. $300. Well, what about the memory? It's the same memory that you put in your phone. Go buy you a micro SD card. Go to Walmart, go to Target, go to Best Buy. Tell them you want a micro SD card. The micro SD card, the 64 gig one at that time, now it's up to like 128 SD card. Buy one of those. And it's cheaper than buying a 64 gig for this. The 128 I think is the same price now. But my point is made. The 64 gig SD card is $30 for the phones and the one that's in my Switch right now. They make it affordable. Sony wants you to go bankrupt. Sony, you had the opportunity to do this. Nintendo did it the right way. They didn't want their customers to go bankrupt, whereas you did. And now, because of that, developers are starting to pay them attention. And this direct that just happened yesterday just shows it. I mean, developers are like on board with it. I mean, they're just coming out so many games. And everybody was like, oh, there's no games at the launch. No system at launch has games. None. PS3 at launch, none. You had MotorStorm and like a handful of sports games, and that was it. There was nothing. Metal Gear Solid 4 didn't come out till months later. There were no games at the launch of the PS3. There were no games at the launch of the 360. Who had games at their launch that were actually really good? Nobody. And you were expecting this to be different? Shit, get the fuck out of here. 6 months later, the Switch is starting to get that little fucking ball rolling, and it's not going to slow down anytime soon. We got Xenoblade Chronicles coming, and it's coming December 1st. We got Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2, and I know you're going to be saying this. Well, that game has been out for a while on the PS4 and the Xbox One. LA Noire, that's just a port from last gen. I don't hear any of you guys saying any of that shit every single time PlayStation or Xbox does the exact same shit. It's just another port from last gen. Why don't you get out something original? I don't see none of you saying that shit when PlayStation or Xbox re-releases some bullshit instead of putting out original content. You just let it slide. But when Nintendo does it, oh, it's just another re-release. It's about time you start holding them to the same fucking tier. If they're gonna re-release something every fucking 6 days, then you need to hold them to the same thing. Hey man, don't re-release another game. Put out some original content. Because I'm calling Nintendo out every time they re-release something. Because I just said they're only putting out games like Doom and Skyrim and Resident Evil Revelations 1 and 2. I'm calling them out on it. But yet I refuse to call out PlayStation and Xbox, even though this entire past 4 years, all they've done majority of the time is re-release after re-release after re-release after re-release after re-release after re-release. But I haven't said a word about it. Think about that. Like I said before, I said it earlier in the video. I'm not saying anything about those indie titles because those indie titles are original content. Those games are original games. But those original games are what make up the pond, that library of games. And those original games, those original AAA games that everybody's clamoring about, these games are like throwing a rock in there. These are the games that are, very few and far between. But those indie titles, those are fucking, those are what's building that library to be huge. Anyway, this video is going on for real long. I didn't mean for that to happen. It's just I had to get a whole lot of stuff out. I mean, watching that direct, man, there was so much shit in there. It got me more hyped for tomorrow for Metroid. I've been hyped for that game for a while, man. I've played every Metroid except for this one coming out. I didn't play the original. I know this is a remake, but I never played the original because I didn't know about it when I had a brick Game Boy, which is what this is off of. I didn't know about it then. I didn't know about Metroid back then. So I'm super excited about this, but I've beaten every Metroid since on handheld. Fusion. What's the other one called? I can't never remember. It's either I know there's Fusion. I remember beating that one, and then there's another one, and I always forget the other one, or I remember that one and forget Fusion. But I beat both of those on the Advanced. I beat both of them. Those were fucking amazing. I didn't play Federation Force because it's not Metroid. But usually I beat every Metroid game on handheld. So I cannot wait until tomorrow to pick my game up, and I will be playing it non-stop. Which is good because what's in my 3DS right now, just for shits and giggles, Mario Kart 7. It's been in there for a while, and I've been super addicted to it. I've gotten pretty much everything except for mainly the carts. Like, I'm unlocking actual carts right now. I've got all the drivers. I got everything else. I just got to get the rest of the carts. Alright, you guys. I will see you guys tomorrow for the unboxing of my Metroid Samus Returns Collector's Edition. Deuces.